Welcome to XIO Voice. Continuing from the previous episode 210, Xiao Yan's group successfully descended from the top floor. After crossing the final flight of steps, Xiao Yan finally stopped. He turned his head, watched the frowning Yi Zhang, and involuntarily smiled. He asked, "Is Elder Yi Zhang worried about that group?" Yi Zhang nodded his head with a bitter smile upon hearing this. He sighed. The profound Zan sect is quite strong. It is unexpected that we have met them here. From the looks of the white-clothed man's guards, it is likely that he has quite a high position within the profound Zan sect. With the style of the profound Zan sect, where they take revenge for everything, it is likely that they will not simply let things be after we have offended them today. Xiao Yan faintly smiled and replied, "This is something that we have no choice over. You need not be overly concerned. I will receive any tactics he forms." The current Xiao Yan possessed the qualification to utter these words. With his current strength, he would not be afraid of anyone below the level of a Do Zun if he completely erupted. Moreover, if he really went crazy and threw an extermination fire lotus, even an elite Do Zun would have to temporarily seek shelter. Moreover, there were two genuine elite Do Zuns currently beside him. This lineup and strength was sufficient to fight some top-tier faction. Although the profound Zan sect's background was tough, it was impossible for Xiao Yan to hand the copper plate to Chen Xian given his character. Since both parties would not back down, a conflict was bound to occur. Yi Zhang found that he was unable to say anything more after hearing Xiao Yan's words. After experiencing the matters from last time, he had been thinking that Xiao Yan possessed a powerful background behind him. Otherwise, how was it possible for him to force back a super-strong expert like Bing He? Xiao Yan was naturally unaware of what Yi Zhang was thinking. After descending the stairs, he took one lap around the second floor. Finally, he found the stall Xin Lan occupied. Xin Lan, who was bored waiting for a buyer to find her, was joyful when she saw Xiao Yan's group. She hurriedly stood up. "How is it?" Xiao Yan smiled and asked. He, that old fellow has finally given in." Xin Lan laughed. After which, her pretty eyes turned to the red-robed elder, who was looking at them from a short distance away. "Are there any other gains?" Xiao Yan smiled. "This old fellow failed to endure." "None. The 1,000-year-old green spiritual vine that you mentioned is an extremely rare medicinal ingredient. I have asked quite a number of people from this place, but none of them have it." Xin Lan shook her head as she helplessly answered. Xiao Yan nodded. He was not surprised by this result. After all, the 1,000-year-old green spiritual vine was indeed very rare. Moreover, this thing was something one needed to have when refining some high-tier medicinal pills. Even if some people owned this thing, seldom would anyone be willing to trade it for other things. Xiao Yan got Xin Lan to pack up. After which, he turned around and walked to the red-robed old man, who had a bitter smile. Xiao Yan grinned at the old man and took out a jade bottle from his storage ring. "Don't say that I have caused you to suffer a loss. This is an elemental heart pill. I will use it to exchange for your blood essence demon fruit. You have gained more from this transaction." The bitter smile on the red-robed elder's face disappeared upon hearing that the pill Xiao Yan had taken out was the elemental heart pill. He curiously examined it before nodding in a satisfied manner. "If you have any more blood essence demon fruit, 10,000-year-old green spiritual vine, or snowbone ginseng, you can come to the Yi Manor in the north to look for me. I will take all of them. Moreover, the price I will offer will definitely be to your satisfaction." Xiao Yan randomly picked up the jade box from the crystal platform and touched the blood essence demon fruit in it. A creamy feeling spread from the tip of his finger. Only then did he nod his head and store the item in his storage ring. At the same time, he uttered those words with a smile. The red-robed, old man also grinned and nodded upon hearing Xiao Yan's words. The elemental heart pill was of great help to an alchemist. Moreover, it was quite troublesome to refine it. Even some alchemists who had reached the middle grade of the 7th tier had a low chance of success when refining this medicinal pill. This was why the elemental heart pill was so expensive. The old man had indeed gained more by using this medicinal ingredient to exchange for an elemental heart pill. Xiao Yan did not continue to stay after informing the red-robed, old man. He led his group to the stairs and descended them before leaving the alchemist trade fair. After which, they hurried back to the Yi Manor. Xiao Yan anxiously got Yi Zhang and the rest to shut the manor's door after having returned to the Yi Manor. He led Tian Huo Zun Jie and the little fairy doctor into a room after that. The three of them surrounded a table within a room. That strange copper plate they had obtained earlier sat on the table. The copper plate was pale yellow in color. Many curly earthworm-like, green rust covered the surface. This copper rust had eroded and covered some of the drawings on the copper plate. Old Mr. Yao, are you certain this thing is worth as much as the elemental heart pill's medicinal formula? Xiao Yan stared at this copper plate that could not appear any more ordinary. He had already used various methods on it. Even the drawings on the copper plate had been carefully copied by him. However, he was still unable to obtain even the least bit of information from the copper plate. Tian Huo Zun Jie smiled as he watched Xiao Yan, who had ended up empty-handed despite using various tactics. He let out 2 bursts of laughter and purposefully said in an unfathomable manner, "Lad, if it is so easy to undo the secret on it, do you think that you would have the chance to enjoy its benefits?" Xiao Yan involuntarily smiled when he heard Tian Huo Zun Jie's words. He said, "In that case, can old Mr. Yao please tell me just how great this thing is?" Tian Huo Zun Jie smiled in a pleased manner upon hearing Xiao Yan's tone. He extended his hand and took the copper plate. After which, he placed it in his hand, tilted it to the fire lamp, and waved it at Xiao Yan. "Have you discovered anything?" Xiao Yan carefully studied this copper plate. He could clearly see the twisting earthworm-like rust under the reflection of the light. He helplessly shook his head and said, "Old Mr. Yao, please don't keep us guessing." "How impatient." Tian Huo Zun Jie shook his head. He curled his finger and a thread of dou qi agglomerated at the tip. It transformed into a tiny dou qi needle. After which, Tian Huo Zun Jie controlled this extremely dense dou qi needle and carefully inserted it into the green-colored copper rust on the surface of the copper plate. Under Tian Huo Zun Jie's careful removal, the green-colored copper dust began to slowly fall and land on the surface of the table. Xiao Yan and the little fairy doctor watched what Tian Huo Zun Jie did. They faced each other. Both of them were at a loss. Tian Huo Zun Jie ignored these 2 lost sheep. He spent nearly half an hour before he had removed the green-colored rust from the copper plate. Just when Xiao Yan and the little fairy doctor thought that Tian Huo Zun Jie was about to explain the mystery of the copper plate, Tian Huo Zun Jie randomly tossed the copper plate aside in front of their stunned gazes. The corner of Xiao Yan's mouth twitched when he saw what Tian Huo Zun Jie did. Xiao Yan really did not understand what he was playing at. "Oh, the 2 of you might be quite strong, but your experience is indeed lacking." Tian Huo Zun Jie raised his head and helplessly shook his head when he saw the expressions of the other 2. After which, he curled his palm and a suction force was emitted. The green-colored copper rust was pulled into his palm. After which, it agglomerated into a thumb-sized green-colored ball. The true secret does not lie with the copper plate. Instead, it lies with this inconspicuous copper rust. How can you only use common sense to deduce an item from ancient times? Tian Huo Zun Jie flicked his finger and tossed the green-colored copper rust to Xiao Yan. He said, "Use the heavenly flame to burn it. I also wish to see what exactly is inside." Xiao Yan carefully received the green copper ball. He glanced over it before summoning a cluster of jade-green flames with a somewhat doubtful attitude. After which, he swept the green-colored copper ball into the flame. After this burning, Xiao Yan finally discovered some of the unique aspects of this copper rust. He found that this copper ball did not show any traces of melting regardless of how high the temperature of the jade-green flame was. "There is indeed something here," Xiao Yan quietly and joyfully cried out in his heart. He hurriedly raised the temperature. This continued for over 10 minutes before the green-colored copper ball finally began to show signs of melting. With the increase of the melting of the copper ball, Xiao Yan suddenly discovered a gradual change in the green color on the copper ball. Tiny pieces of yellow dust quietly fell from the melting copper a little at a time. Finally, they remained suspended within the flame. They flickered just like spirits, hinting like they were filled with a dense spirituality. The faint yellow dust specks gradually fell. After around 2 minutes, they ceased falling. That copper ball disappeared the instant after all the dust fell. Following the annihilation of the copper ball, 5 pieces of pale yellow dust remained suspended within the flame. They flickered and seemed to be filled with a spiritual luster. There were no other changes no matter how the flame burned. "This is Xiao Yan's eyes were startled when he saw the 5 pale yellow specks of dust within the flame. He felt a little lost. They were clearly not things he recognized. After being at a loss for a moment, Xiao Yan's eyes slid to Tianhuo Zunjie beside him. However, Xiao Yan saw that he was deep in thought. It was only a long while later before Tianhuo Zunjie slowly exhaled and said in a gruff voice, "If I have guessed correctly, these things should be something that only existed during ancient times. Spirit nourishment powder. He. It is correct to trust the old me. Little fellow, if you compare this thing to a Tier 7 middle-grade medicinal formula, you are the one has gained a great deal." Spirit nourishment powder? Xiao Yan raised his eyebrows as he watched Tianhuo Zunjie's expression suddenly become joyful. His mouth softly muttered some words.